settling in. During the week Adam and Lucy had to bide their time, waiting for their next encounter with their respective parent. Neither knew, or even suspected, that the other was getting any special attention. But both were horny as hell. Adam would lock the door on Lucy's side and spend what seemed like hours in the shower. Lucy guessed what he might be doing and it made her horny too. Her hand would disappear into her panties and she would rub herself into a wet frenzy. By the time Adam had finally finished, Lucy would need a shower to rinse off the puddle of goo her pussy had become. Luke and Sam suffered no such problem. They would get home from school, divest themselves of their school clothes and dive into the shower. Both would be horny from a day in class thinking about the fuck they would have once they reached the relative safety of their room. There was very little foreplay. This was not a romance. This was two kids fucking each other because fucking was fun. Luke was usually rock hard before he entered the room. If not, just watching Sam strip and prance about naked would get him up. They would rinse each other off, then Sam would stand there and piss herself. Luke loved to put his hand between her legs and feel the hot pee run through his fingers. As soon as she was done, Sam would spit in her hand, rub it on her pussy, then stand, waist bent, with her hands on the wall. If she was slow getting there, Luke would sometimes use that tired old cop phrase, assume the position. Then they would fuck. Luke would come up behind her, grab her hips, and just shove it in. Deep. The shower fuck was usually quick. Luke was always juiced up after school. He had started to look at all the girls and wonder what their pussies were like. The girls in his class were well into puberty, so all of them had tits of some sort. There were big girls and little girls, but all of them had something up top. Sam was still flat as an ironing board and, for the time being, Luke liked it that way. He could still fuck her and squirt load after load of cum inside his little sister. And he'd wonder about all those white girls. He saw lots of white pussies on the internet, but really wanted to know what they would be like in real life. Do they smell the same? Do they taste the same? Are they as tight as Sam's? After the quick shower fuck, Luke and Sam would dress in their normal house clothes and get their homework done. Mom would always want to know if they had done it, and until they could both say yes, she was far more likely to poke her head in the door ... and they didn't want that. Funny that underage incest might be the driver for better homework. Evening meals in the Emerson household were not big affairs. Zena would make sure that they all ate, but nobody really cared where. Sometimes they would sit up at the dining table, usually when the meal was difficult to eat with just a fork. Most times people would take their meal down and eat it while they watched television. They could eat in their rooms on the strict condition that the dishes came back to the kitchen before they slept that night. Bedtime was also fairly flexible. They didn't have to be asleep by a certain time, but they did have to be in their rooms, quiet, by 9:30 to give the adults some time alone. That specific time was chosen as it was the start of the adult content on TV. Now that they shared the room, Luke and Sam were fine with the idea. They were usually gone by 8:30. The porn on the net was much better than the half-assed titty shows on cable. In their room Luke and Sam would cram together in front of Luke's PC. He would find something totally unsuitable for kids their age and soon one, or both, of them would have a hand inside the other's pants. He would always keep something innocent open in another window, usually cat videos on YouTube, ready in case they had to visit from home. They would sit there watching porn, Sam on Luke's lap, his thumb shoved deep in her cunt, her hand casually wrapped around his cock, giggling at the videos for ages. They didn't have to come every time, they just loved the mutual contact. Both Luke and Sam loved oral sex, especially when it was Sam's oral and Luke's sex. They always left a pencil or some other object on the floor under the desk, so if Mom came in Sam could pop up from under the desk, pencil in hand. Sam would blow her brother and delight in showing him her mouth full of his cum. They continued this way for weeks, but each Saturday morning before they fucked Luke would keep a watch out for Adam as he made the journey to visit Mom. Adam's second session with his mother started just like the first. He waited the agreed time then slipped across the hall wearing only boxer shorts. Zena was waiting for him in bed, but the moment the door was closed and locked she sat up on the side nearest the door, legs spread, and waited for him to walk over to her. She was already naked. She pointed to a spot on the floor between her feet and looked her son in the eyes. This was a disciplined technique Zena had used for as long as Adam could remember. He walked to the spot, stood there facing her and remained silent. Zena raised her hands and slowly slid the boy's boxers over his ass and protruding cock and let them drop to his ankles. She took his shaft in one hand and his balls in the other and gave both a gentle rub. "Oh. You are a good boy." Adam said nothing. but the grin on his face spoke volumes. "Last week I said that your first load of cum would not be inside me. I want it here." And with the last words she lifted both hands and pointed to her cheeks. She went on to explain. "Boys think of their mothers as something special, something precious, and the thought of using them as target for a cock full of cum is hard. We're not. We are women. You like to fuck, and be fucked. We like to drink cum and we like to have it run between our fingers. We want you to shoot it up our cunts, and up our ass, and we want to watch from inches away as you spray it all over our face." Adam stood before his mother, a little aghast. "So boy, I want you to take that cock in your hand and show me what you did in the shower that night. I want you to rub your tool while I watch you, from right here, just inches away. Now start." So with his mother sitting in front of him, in her words just inches away, Adam started to jack off. He was already using juice before he entered the room, so lubrication was not a problem. He rubbed his shaft from top to bottom and Zena saw how was shown in the morning light from the window. Every now and then he would take his hand right down to the base and squeeze hard to milk more juice out the end. Zena started to massage her breasts with both hands, rolling them around and pushing the nipples up so the boy could see how hard and direct they were. She leaned forward with her tongue out as if she was going to lick him, but when he moved toward her she immediately withdrew. "Tease," he thought. "You're looking a little dry there, boy," she said, before spitting a huge blob of saliva onto the head of his cock in the hand enclosing it. A few seconds later she challenged him again. "My face is still dry. Why is my face still dry? Come on, son. Shoot." She held her mouth, opening her head back, and looked up at him with wide eye, pleading for cum. The boy was flogging his cock without mercy. He had never pumped himself so fast. But it worked. Adam let fly with a massive load of hot, white semen. His aim was good. The first squirt shot up his mother's nose. The next into her left eye. The third into her mouth. When the squirting slowed to a noose he rested the head on his mother's dry right cheek and let the juice flow down next to her nose and onto her top lip. She sat there, motionless, as the boy milked himself dry on her face. When he stepped back he saw the perfect black skin of his mother's face defaced by huge blobs of his thick white cum. He felt a little ashamed and a lot satisfied. She wanted this. She begged him to do it. She got it. The boy certainly saw his mother in a new light in that short moment. Zena the cum canvas. "Now lick me clean," she commanded. "What?" The boy was taken aback. "You heard me. Lick me clean." Adam had never tasted his own cum before. He had never tasted any cum. Sometimes when he masturbated he would tell himself that he would taste his own juice, this time. But as soon as he had squirted, the urge left him. He would wash the cum, that he carefully collected in his other hand, down the drain. He knew from his mother's tone that she was deadly serious. He didn't know where to start but figured the lips were a fair bet. He took his mother's head in his hands and kissed her. A big slobbery kiss that cleaned all of her lips in one go. He followed the track up the side of her nose. He broke away to survey the rest of her face. Her left eye was closed, the cum stuck between her eyelashes. He went back in and licked the eye clean from the nose out. He didn't know what to do about the cum up her nose. Zena fixed that by sniffing it in like snot. She opened her eyes and blinked a little to free up her left eyelid. ... And the lesson is? She queried the boy. Adam stood there fumbling for words. The lesson is: if you make a mess, if you decorate a woman this way, you stick around for the cleanup. Adam helped his mother to her feet and the two of them went to the ensuite to clean up a little more thoroughly. Zena spoke to the boy a little more about loving sex and power games, and where the facial stood in that mix. Returning to the bed, Zena invited her son to a nice slow 69er. She laid the boy in the middle of the bed and climbed on top, offering her juicy cunt to her son while gently played with his tackle at the other end. Adam was starting to appreciate the delights of his mother's crack. He gazed into her hole and thought of the day, 16 years earlier, that he had emerged from her vagina. "Try and make me come with your tongue, boy," he heard from his mother. "We'll play the hot and cold game. You know what I mean." "Sure." And with that single word, Adam plunged his face into his mother's cunt again. He licked her everywhere. He pulled her labia into his mouth and tickled them with his tongue. He licked her anus. Actually, he licked her anus a lot, as he heard hotter much more there than most other places. She came with his tongue pressed hard up her ass. When Zena came, she did so with a rock-hard cock in her hand. The boy had recovered from his first blow and was ready again. Xena spun around on her son's belly and mounted him jockey style. She reached up and kissed him, then spoke. "My special boy. I love you so much. Now fuck me." She reached behind her ass to steer his cock into the correct hole, no ass fucking, yet, and hung on tight as the boy's hips rose up and drove his shaft into her. Adam wrapped his arms around his mother to hold her in position, then fucked her for all he was worth. This session lasted longer than the first week. She guided her boy, had him change speed and change power, to make him last for a mighty fuck. When he was spent, she sent him on his way like the previous week. Adam crashed on his bed and didn't wake for hours. He didn't notice Lucy return home. He didn't notice her rush to the shower. And he certainly didn't notice that she spent close to an hour in there. Xena cleaned up and napped for a while. She was on the sofa, still thinking about her buzzing pussy when Martin and Lucy got home. She barely registered that both Martin and her girl headed straight for the showers on their return. Lucy was finding it harder and harder to keep the next massage from her dad out of her head. She would be sitting in class, bored out her brain, and start to feel his hands on her breasts. When she felt herself getting wet, she forced herself to think of something else. Turns out the bullshit in the history class worked, so she listened along, just to keep her mind away from her pussy. That didn't work at home. She would be watching television and find her hand between her legs slowly masturbating. Fuck. Not again. The show was boring anyway, so she went to her room and did a proper job of it. On the Friday she masturbated a total of 5 times before she finally got off to sleep. Her bag was packed. She had gone through the list she and her father made the previous week. Extra towels, massage oil, extra clothes, toiletries, what else? Had she forgotten anything? Alarm set. Sleep.